Alrighty, Unreal 5.1 is now on the launcher, so everyone that asked me where you get that from, that's where you get it from now. Otherwise, with the preview release of Unreal 5.1, I can finally finish my USD tutorial trilogy, if you will. So we're going to look at exporting animated USDs out of Unreal through Sequencer, which opens the door to a whole lot of possibilities, whether that's doing previs stuff in Unreal and then exporting that out to Houdini or something for you to have a look at, or whether that's doing a mocap session and then exporting that, you know, and then we can also sort of use any render engine in with our Unreal sequence. So I'm going to show you how to use that today. So go ahead and start with your project. Make sure the USD, there it is, USD importer. Now it's a bit of a trick because it's named importer, but this also enables the export of USDs as well. Then you're going to need a sequence. So I have jumped into the first cinematic I've ever made in Unreal. This was back in 4.24. A couple, what is that? It's like 3 years ago now. Gosh. So it could be better, but I needed a sequence to try this out, so why not? So I've gone ahead and combined a number of sort of the best shots I have for this to sort of show the point here. So that one, and this is all set up with Lumen now, and I'm going to say it looks fantastic, a lot better than what I achieved back then, although I'm still think I did a good job. So we've just got a handful of shots, and these are just standard animations. You know, walking character, we've got animations as well as all sorts of other things. One thing to note, so these cloaks are Alembic files exported out of Marvelous Designer. They will not export through USD. Unreal doesn't support exporting the USD out, exporting Alembic caches out through USD, at least at the moment. I want to say USD supports geometry caches, but that's something. It might not. So keep that in mind, that some things in Unreal won't export through animated things in Unreal won't export. What we will get is any animated lights and any animated cameras, including things like focus and focal length, as well as our character here. So what we can do is we can export a group like this, or we can export a single shot. I could go in here and just export this shot. I'm going to export the group because that's handy for me. I'm going to go ahead and delete the test one. So what we will need to do is go ahead and open up your sequence like this. Doesn't really matter where the playhead is. Hit the actions and then export. Go ahead to your desktop or some other inappropriate place to save this. Choose your USD flavor. USDA, I believe, stands for, I wouldn't blame you if you thought it standed for animated, but as far as I know, it actually stands for ASCII. So that'll be human readable, just like how FBX can be stored in ASCII or binary. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the regular USD. On that, I think C stands for compressed as well. I'm going to choose the regular USD because that's a safe bet. I'm going to give this a name, so let's go ahead and call this robot sequence. Robot sequence with my new quieter keyboard. So this is where the magic happens, and this is USD export options is the important part to get this to work. So we need to make sure export subsequences as layers is ticked. That means each subsequence, so shot 2, shot 4, shot 12, shot 13, I think, they will each be exported as their own USD file as well. This makes it really handy if you want to load just that scene. We also need to make sure export level is ticked. This will export the world around us, not just the stuff contained in the sequence, which sort of gives us a whole package. We also need to tick use exported level as USD sublayer. That means that the level we've exported here will be referenced inside the sequence USD file. Next, what we're going to do is export sublevels as layers. Again, if our level is made up of multiple sublevels, they will each be exported to their own USD file and referenced into the original. Just a handy thing to have. 4 levels to export. This doesn't have any sublevels, but if it did, they would be ticked as well as the persistent level, which is the open level. Now, Here we have re-export identical levels and sequences and re-export identical assets. So if you're working on this and you're sort of working on the animation and you're exporting and overriding and stuff like this, what will happen is it'll only overwrite the sequence files and it will leave the level files. It'll assume that your level hadn't changed. Now, if you want to overwrite those, then we can hit this export identical levels and sequences, and that will overwrite the exported USD level. Same here for identical assets, because the way Unreal exports it is each asset in the scene will actually be a USD file as well. Ticking this will overwrite them every time you do this. I'm going to leave them unticked for now. Finally, under the level export options and asset options here, what we can do is we can export the textures. If you remember from the previous one, we can bake this to a USD material preview, and then we can then see these textures in essentially any program. So to do that, we need to make sure the bake materials is ticked and the remove Unreal materials is ticked. This will remove the Unreal material, which means we can't re-import this back into Unreal, but that's okay because we don't plan on doing that. For the default texture size, I'm going to go 1024 by 1024. Now note that things like tiling textures are instead going to be baked as 1K texture. So this is a great preview thing, but it's not for final use. So if you are then going to transfer this to something else, my advice would be to export the textures manually and remake materials, because you're not going to get tiling and other effects like this has parallax occlusion mapping. We're also not going to get decals. Now, all of those are ticked. All we need to do is hit export and wait. Now, it's going to take a little bit to export as it's got to bake all the materials as well. And if this is the first time you're ever exporting a USD out of this project, then it'll probably compile some shaders down here as well. So just be patient and wait for it. Alrighty, and just like that, it looks like it's finished. Yep. So usually you won't get an out of video memory. It's just this project was poorly made because I didn't know what I'm doing, so I always run into that with this particular project. However, if we go to our folder, you'll notice, oh, that's on top of everything. Here we go. What I'll do is I can reopen the project. So what we have here, we have various things. So we have the robot USD. So that is the actual sequence I exported. We then have the subsequences that's made out of shot 2, 4, 12, and 13. We have the level main.usd. We have some material overrides, and then in assets game we have all the various assets as USDs that make that up. So it sort of mimics the Unreal look or the Unreal project structure. Now I'm going to go. I'm using USD View, which is a Pixar program. I think you can, Pixar doesn't distribute a binary, but I think you can just compile it yourself if you want to. Otherwise, NVIDIA Omniverse has it. As far as I know, USD View is actually the only program that supports 100% of the USD feature set. Could be mistaken. My best guess would be Houdini would be the next on that list. And I'm going to go ahead and open the USD we exported, so in this case just robot.usd, and open it and wait for it to open. Alrighty, and that didn't take very long at all, and so now we have a look. We have our character. So again, the cloak is missing. Same with our decals, because decals aren't supported in USD, because I don't actually think decals are supported at all in any. Oh no, V-Ray has like a decal system, I think. Anyway, decals are not a common thing in 3D because they're a debuffer trick, but we do have an animation, and I can scrub through it and play it. If I can, there we go. Grab that. Nope. I think because it's streaming in the USD files. Oh yeah, and he jumped all the way. So playing this entire thing is probably not ideal, having like the, oh, there we go. So you can see even like the buildings I hid and unhid are swapping about like that. And there's our last robot. So this probably isn't ideal having all of them, but like you saw, we actually can, because that exported just the separate shots as well, I could just load an individual shot instead. I could just load shot 2 here instead, and that would still have everything in it. Here we go. Now I can go ahead and play just that animation. So there you have it, a way to export animated USD files out of Unreal. Hopefully that was helpful and you can find a cool use for this. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.